Thank you very much. With that, we have a quorum. First order of business is a call to order and then a roll call, please. I think Michelle is there to do that.
Alderman Collins. Alderwoman Hubbard.
Here.
Commissioner Boaz. Commissioner Boaz.
Present.
Bradley.
We're not hearing Michelle.
Commissioner Anderson.
Oh, Michelle, back up. The last one we got was Commissioner Boaz. We cannot hear you.
Commissioner Bradley.
Present.
Commissioner Anderson.
Sounds like Anderson, but present if that was who you called.
Armindia.
Present.
Commissioner Keown.
Present.
Alderman Cone. Chair Strathern.
Chair, present.
Have a quorum of 7.
All right, thank you very much. With that, before we go any further, I want to first welcome a new commissioner, friend of the city, Alderwoman Hubbard. Welcome to the Planning Commission. We're glad to see, as usual, we can tell she's in the car moving and doing and grooving. So we'll get her for that later. With that, there's a couple of items on the agenda today. I do want to say there are 3 public hearings. So if you're here for a public hearing, if you would be sure to place your name in the chat, we'll call you at the appropriate time. The chair will identify you, and then at that point, we'll ask you to speak. We are always respectful of time and typically ask that you keep it 2 to 3 minutes, and the chair will moderate that conversation as appropriate. The first item of business is going to be 20-23 RIZ, and I believe Alexa is going to be making that presentation.
Asking about the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. The first item of business is the approval of the minutes. The copies were sent out electronically. Call for vote, please.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderman Hubbard could not vote on the minute approval.
Oh, because I read them, but I wasn't here.
Correct.
Okay, I understand. Abstain.
Abstain, yeah. Commissioner Boaz. Aye. Commissioner Bradley.
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Garmendia.
Aye.
Commissioner Keown.
Aye.
Chair Strother.
Aye.
The motion passes with 6 ayes and 1 abstention.
Thank you very much. Thank you for keeping me on track. Now moving into that first item of business is Alexa. We will give you at that point the mic, please. Go ahead.
Something here before we begin.
We cannot hear Alexa if Alexa is speaking.
Okay, I'm sorry, it was muted. Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, there we go.
Perfect. Okay, so good evening, Planning Commission members. Tonight we are reviewing a request to rezone a site consisting of 9 parcels. I will wait till the slide changes. Okay, so we're reviewing a request to rezone a site consisting of 9 parcels in the Greaterville neighborhood from B2 family to F neighborhood commercial district in order to facilitate mixed use development at this site. Next slide, please. So the proposed rezoning site is just under 1.5 acres and is located in the 12th ward that will encompass a mixed-use development that includes a grocery store on the ground floor level and age-restricted housing. We do have petitioners Yasset El Amin and others representing Field Place LP who can assist with any questions you may have and will also give a brief presentation a little later. Please go to the next slide. Thank you. Furthermore, at the site, the Planning Commission has reviewed and approved 2 redevelopment plans. One was in 2017 and the other in 2019, in which this project would have to comply with what's in that plan or in the redevelopment plans. Next slide. So these next slides will illustrate what will be at the proposed rezoning site. So here at the intersection of Clarence and Natural Bridge, there will be a rendering, or this is the rendering of the 4-story building that would include Field Foods grocery store on the ground floor. And then on the upper 3 floors, there will be approximately 50 age-restricted units. Next slide. Here we see the second phase of the project, which also includes another building, which will be 3 stories in height and will include approximately 40 age-restricted units. So just to kind of provide some context, what you see outlined in yellow is the entire proposed development site, and it's also near Fairground Park, and that's the linear line you see, that is all of Natural Bridge. So this is just kind of like an overview of that. Next slide. Okay. Also, to provide further context, the proposed rezoning site is in a neighborhood preservation area, which means existing housing and corner commercial building stock will be preserved, augmented with new infill residential and corner commercial development, which will also be physically integrated with and primarily serving the immediate neighborhood. Next slide. At this time, the proposed rezoning site that we see on the screen is B, 2-family, which permits the rights to the uses that you see on the screen, like single family, 2-family, and 4-family dwellings, and also conditionally permits bed and breakfasts, hospitals, schools, and government buildings. Next slide. And so these are conditional uses that are permitted. And then the following slide, please. Okay. So however, in the F commercial district, more uses are permitted by right, like the grocery store and other retail stores, and conditionally permits bars, taverns, and other uses listed. And by rezoning B to F, it would permit for the grocery store and also the multifamily residential development. Thank you. So lastly, to demonstrate other uses around the site, we will go in clockwise order. North of the rezoning site is a gas station. This is currently at the project site, which is a vacant lot. There's an auto parts store to the side, but also that is just a vacant building that is formerly a cash and check loan. Okay. So as we move along, south on the site on Clarence Ave is residential with mixed-use single and 2-family homes. Next slide. Following slide. There we go. And so east of the site is also residential and consists of more single-family homes. And then also to the west of the site, we continue to have around the rezoned site just multifamily and single-family homes. And we do have the petitioner who can provide any questions that summarizes what I have here. And we also have Mary and Evan who are present who can also answer any zoning questions, zoning related questions.
Thank you. Okay, there she is. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I am Yasset El Amin, the president of Efficacy Consulting and Development and the developer of the Fields development.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. May. With that, again, I'll say if there's anyone online that there is going to be a public hearing, in a moment I'll call to open that. Is there any presentation? If you want to make comments in the public hearing, please put your name in the chat and we'll open that in a few moments. We do have a letter of support that was received, I believe, from Alderwoman Sharon Tyus of the 12th Ward dated on May 4th that was sent in support of this project, just so that Commissioner knows that. With that, the first action, I would accept the motion to open the public hearing.
Commissioner Young, so moved.
Second, Commissioner Boaz.
Moved by Commissioner Chung, seconded by Commissioner Boaz. Call for vote, please.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Commissioner Boaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Garmendia,
Aye.
Commissioner Keon,
Aye.
Chair Schreiber,
Aye.
and the motion passes without present voting none.
At that point, the public hearing is open on item number PDA 20-23 RAZ. I see no names in the chat at this point. This is first call for comments on public hearing. This is first call for public hearing, seeing no names. Second-
I'm in the chat.
Okay, and can you identify yourself, please?
Okay, I'm State Rep Collins. I'm in support of this development, and I just wanted to go on record. I am also the block captain for the 4200 block of East and West Lexington. I'm a resident of the Ville and Greater Ville. So this development is down the street from my house. So it's within walking distance, but I also serve as the president for the Ville and Greaterville Neighborhood Association, and we stand in support with developer Yafet El-Amin on this development project.
Thank you very much, State Rep.
Thank you.
Any other?
And I
name-
will also be sending in a letter of support by the end of the day today, if you will accept it.
Okay, thank you very much at that point. Planning Commission, I mean, for the staff, are there any other names that I may not be seeing?
Chair, there's no other names in the chat, and we also didn't receive anything via letter or email.
Okay, thank you very much. Last call, second call for public hearing statements. Third call for public hearing statements. Hearing none on this, I'll accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved, Commissioner Boaz.
Second, Bradley.
It's been moved by Commissioner Boaz, second by Commissioner Bradley. Call for vote. Did I hear a previous roll?
Previous
Commissioner
roll.
Boaz,
Oh, aye.
Any objections to previous roll? Hearing no previous roll, the public hearing is closed at this point. With that, then, as you know, we'll go through the commissioners' questions at this point. I'll simply walk down the line. Commissioner Cone is not on, or if he is, any questions? Not hearing Commissioner Cone. Alderwoman Hubbard, any questions at this point that you have at this point?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Banton, not hearing the role that he's here. Commissioner Boaz, any questions?
No questions. It was a great
Thank-
project.
Thank you. Commissioner Bradley, any questions at this point?
No questions. Very supportive of a great project, and particularly with the grocery store. I think that would be a great addition to that neighborhood.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson, any questions?
No questions at the moment.
Thank you. Commissioner Garmedia, any questions?
No questions, just in support of this project and hope to see more like it.
Thank you. Commissioner Kong, any questions at this point?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, the chair does offer his support for the project, and I wish the best for this. With that, I'll ask the planning commission, the planning staff to review the motion, that the recommendation in front of us at this point.
So in summary, the proposed zoning request is in conformity with the strategic land use plan, and PDA staff recommends approval of this proposed rezoning request.
With that recommendation, I'll entertain any motion at this point.
Move to approve the rezoning request. Commissioner Boaz.
Second, Clark Hubbard.
It's been moved by Commissioner Boaz, second by Alderwoman Hubbard.
Previous
Clark-
roll.
Call for previous roll. Hearing any objections? Hearing no objections, it is approved by previous roll. Thank you very much. We wish you the best on this project, and we look for success on that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Commissioner and members of the committee. We look forward to delivering a great project. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank you very much. And commissioners, as you know, we're going to go through that 2 more times on public hearing. So I'm glad we all have water or have taken a moment to take a deep breath. The second item is presented to us is Miriam. So please, Miriam, the podium is yours.
Great. Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. Slide. So the first item I will present tonight is a rezoning request for a parcel in the Bevo Mill neighborhood. And the request is to rezone the parcel from actually multiple zoning designations, A, F, and G, to one single zoning designation, G. Next slide, please. The petition was submitted by Sean Spencer on behalf of Crossroads Living for a project of Tower Grove Neighborhood CDC. And Sean is actually here tonight. We'll provide a brief presentation about the project and be available to answer any questions commissioners may have. Next slide, please. So in short, Tower Grove CDC plans to build a 4-story affordable senior housing community on the site with a public use community room and resident-oriented amenities on the first floor. Next slide. So there have actually been several items related to this project, which have previously been before the Planning Commission in the past. I'll just kind of quickly describe what those are. First, the site falls within the Bevo Mill Area Special Use District, and this was recommended by the Commission on October 2020, subsequently passed as ordinance, and we'll be returning to this item in the next agenda item. And generally, this SED prohibits certain car-related uses in the district to create a more pedestrian-oriented retail environment, and also allows for greater height in what's called this bow tie subdistrict, which is right around this intersection. And this subject property for the rezoning this evening falls within that bow tie subdistrict where greater heights are allowed. The Planning Commission also approved a Chapter 99 redevelopment plan and blighting study in the fall of 2021. These also subsequently became ordinance, so related to tax incentives being sought for this project. Next slide. So this proposed rezoning would, the change that's being recommended would allow for certain commercial uses that are not allowed in or conditional in the F commercial district, which is part of what the parcel is currently zoned. But I think actually the greater change is that the G district, which is being recommended as the kind of unified zoning designation to rezone this property to, that G district does not have the 4,000 square foot per unit density requirement of both F and A districts. So in other words, G would allow for the type of mixed-use multifamily development envisioned by the petitioner with this project, and which staff believes is appropriate for this location. The parameters of the Bevo Mill Area Special Use District also apply, actually no matter the underlying zoning designation. And in the bow tie subdistrict of the SUD, heights of up to 6 stories are permitted. So just a note there. Next slide. When we review this rezoning request against the strategic land use plan, we see that the property falls primarily within a neighborhood commercial area, or NCA for short. Just a sliver falls within a neighborhood preservation area, just because of small inconsistencies and property boundaries and data. So neighborhood commercial areas in pink seek to promote new and preserve existing commercial uses, primarily serving adjacent neighborhoods, and also allows for and supports mixed-use building types with ground floors that have the potential to transition to commercial use over time as local market demand improves. Neighborhood preservation areas in yellow, of course, are areas which seek to preserve existing housing and corner commercial and promote infill that is physically integrated with the immediate neighborhood. So our review finds that the proposed rezoning and project are in conformity with the strategic land use plan designations here, and will allow for infill and potential commercial uses, which very much are in keeping with the intent of both designations on this property. Next slide. So quickly, a tour of the area to give you a sense of the consistency with the surroundings that the rezoning and project would allow. So the site is currently a vacant lot right across from, of course, the iconic Bevo Mill building, and really in the very heart of the Bevo Mill neighborhood and Bevo Mill commercial district. On Delore are 1- and 2-story commercial buildings. Next slide, please. As well as 1- and 2-story residential buildings down the block. Next slide again. Just south of the site lies Long Middle School, a 3- and 4-story commercial building. So, this rezoning would allow for a project that fits well within this context in terms of its form and character and use, and really at a key corner in the Beaver Mill neighborhood. Next slide. So, in summary, we find that the rezoning request is in conformity with the strategic land use plan, and we recommend approval of the proposed rezoning request. So, like I mentioned before, Sean Spencer of Tower Grove Neighborhood CDC is here to provide a quick presentation about the project prior to the public hearing and commissioner discussion. And then also Evan Winkler and Mary Hart Burton of the zoning section are here tonight to answer any specific zoning questions. Next slide.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. We'll accept Sean Spencer to the podium at this time.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you for having me tonight. This is my second time in front of this commission, and we're really excited to bring this next chapter to Bevo Mill.
Please hold on one second, Mr. Spencer. Mr. Spencer, hold on 1 second. The microphone in that room is not picking up at all well, staff. We're having a very difficult time hearing, so I'm not sure if it's the phone that you all are using, the location, or the mic.
Just very quickly try another setup. Hopefully it's an improvement.
Because I want to be sure the commissioners are getting the full audio and understanding and explanation, and give the courtesy to all those making presentations that they can be heard clearly and articulately.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Is this any better on your end?
It is better, that whatever that is, yes.
I think we may have found something. We can tweak again if needed.
There's at least 3 microphones up here, so one of them is going to work, I'm sure. So we made a lot of progress. Thank you. We made a lot of progress since the last time we were in front of this commission, and we're excited to present this to you. We're going to probably give you a little more information than you may need, but I think it's really important for everybody on the commission to understand this is not just one project. This is a project that we believe is really going to enhance the entire neighborhood and surrounding neighborhoods in Bevo Mill. First off is our co-sponsors and developers are Tower Grove CDC and Lutheran Senior Services. Lutheran Senior Services will also act as the, oh, I don't. Okay. Thank you. So I was gonna, what else do I need to do here? So Roseman and Associates, our architect, E.M. Harris is the contractor, Gateway is our development consultant, Noah Graddick is our accountant, we have Rosenblum, Golden Hirsch, and Spencer Fain as our attorneys, and we have Jerry Burke here representing Gateway, and Jared Cooper representing Roseman and Associates. So first off, this is an $18 million investment into Bevo Mill. We have 5 applications for LIHTC funding dated back to 2017, and the award was granted in November 2022. We've got 64 apartments, 62 plus seniors with a mix of 52 1-bedrooms and 12 2-bedrooms. We have 31 bedroom units that will be HUD Section 202, allowing seniors to pay 30% of their income towards rent. And Crossroads was awarded a $5.1 million award from HUD to make this subsidized project happen. Another important part of this project is the 7 market rate units that we're including, and we firmly believe that those market rate units will help other developers come into the area and use those as comps, and hopefully support the appraisals and the underwriting of additional investments into Bevo Mill. We've acquired and cleared the site. We already have the tax abatement approved, and we also have the Section 106 SHPO approved with no adverse effects. So we are really turning on all cylinders and ready to move forward. Oh, and the replatting is done as well. Community support, Alderwoman Ann Schweitzer from the 1st Ward, Better Bevo Neighborhood Association, Newport Heights Neighborhood Association, the Bevo Community Improvement District, which we had a meeting this afternoon. I just recently joined that board. The East-West Gateway Council of Governments, State Representative Butt, State Rep Behringer, and the St. Louis Area Agency on Aging is also in support of this project. As Don loves to call the area the bow tie district, we always talk about plans sitting on shelves. Well, this one is actually about to be built, and this will be the first of 3 that are envisioned for the area. The bank relocated across the street. There's 2 smaller multifamily buildings there. There's also a city-owned lot to the south there that is also a redevelopment opportunity. So we're excited to see what happens next. Also, the 4-story building was desired to plan to create that living room effect, and that came through the Bevo Streets plan. Also want to make note of the neighborhood being culturally and racially diverse, but there are many vacant storefronts and poorly maintained buildings. We really feel like this is a catalyst project, and once it's built, we look forward to taking in data and really helping additional investments in the neighborhood, especially along the commercial corridor. And the Bevo Great Streets Plan recommends and supports the Crossroads Living Project. And here's a beautiful night shot focused in on the iconic Bevo Mill. And I'm here for any questions, and our consultants and architect are here as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. At that point, Mr. Spencer, what I will ask, if there will be a public hearing in a moment, if you are here to make comments on the public hearing, we ask that you place your name in the chat. That will allow us to identify anyone present for the public hearing. Again, we'll ask that you hold your comments to 2 minutes, and the chair will moderate that. Again, if you're here for the public hearing, please place your name in the chat. We will allow 2 minutes. With that statement, I will ask the staff if they are seeing any names in the chat or have any letters to identify, because I don't see any at this point. But before you answer that, call for a motion for public hearing. To open the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I move to open the public hearing. Commissioner Boaz?
Do I have a
I'll
second?
second it.
Moved by Commissioner Boaz, seconded by Commissioner Kyung. I'll call for vote.
Roll.
Call for previous roll. Hearing any objections? Hearing no objections, previous roll accepted. The public hearing is now open. Again, if you are here for public hearing, please identify yourself. Staff, do you have any letters of support that need to be acknowledged?
No additional letters other than what was included in the packet, and we don't see any indication in the Zoom chat about interest in participation in the public hearing.
Thank you very much. With that, for public hearing, call number 1 before closing. Call number 2 before closing. Call number 3 before closing. With that, we will close the public hearing. Hearing a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved, Commissioner Boaz?
Seconded by Commissioner Kim.
Moved by Commissioner Boaz, seconded by Commissioner Kyung.
Previous roll.
Call for previous roll. Hearing any objections? Hearing no objections, previous roll will accept, and public hearing is closed. With that, I now allow the opportunity for the commissioners to ask any questions. Commissioner Cone, Alderman Cone, if you are on, this would be your chance. I'm not sure. I have not seen you show up. Not hearing from Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, any questions or comments?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Banton, I'm not seeing the name show. Commissioner Boaz?
No questions. Great day for seniors.
Thank you. Commissioner Bradley, any questions?
No questions, and a great use of a vacant property.
Thank you. And I think Commissioner Boaz was talking about me. Commissioner Anderson?
No questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Gramini?
No questions. I drive by this site every day, so this is a great use, and maybe it'll limit the amount of people who try to turn right on red because they won't be able to see anymore with this giant building in the way.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Kyung, any questions or comments?
No questions. You know, Christina, it's only 4 stories though. But on that note, it's great to just see all the work continue over the years and getting to see Bevo change. So thank you for bringing the project.
Very good. The chair has no comments in support of the project. With that, I'll ask the staff to reread the proposal at this point, or the recommendation, and would entertain a motion at that point.
So our comments is that we do find the rezoning request to be in conformity with the strategic land use plan and recommend approval of the rezoning request.
Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved by Commissioner Chung.
Second, Commissioner Boaz.
Moved by Commissioner Young, seconded by Commissioner Boyles. Call for vote.
Previous roll.
Call for previous roll. Hear any objections? Hearing no objections, pass with previous roll. Thank you very much. And this will move forward to the Board of Aldermen as they do from our office. We look forward to seeing some lights, as I said, that night shot and seniors having a place by Bevo Mill. Thank you very much,
You got it.
Sean,
Thank you.
Mr. Spencer. And thank you to your team.
Thank you.
With that, Miriam's still back on the podium seat for item number PDA 22-23, SUD.
Yes. Yes, thank you. So the next item is actually related to the very same site. It's an amendment proposed for initiation by the Planning Commission. And the context here is that during the course of the review of the Crossroads rezoning request, zoning staff identified that parts of the subject parcel are actually not fully included within the bounds of the Bevo SUD. And in short, this would make it difficult to properly review a future building permit. And so this item recommends just making those very slight adjustments to the SUD boundaries now as a sort of small technical cleanup, so this project doesn't hit any other kind of regulatory barriers in the future. Next, so here's the proposed change for initiation by the Planning Commission. Next slide. This diagram shows a little bit about what I mean. So when the Bevo SUD was first created, the portions of what is now 49 10 through 12 Gravelly Avenue, shown in yellow here, were not included in the parcel, so they were not included in the Bevo SUD boundary. But on July 9th, these parcels were consolidated into one parcel because of their joint ownership. Next slide. So the proposed amendment simply would add these portions of the parcel to the overall boundary of the SUD, next slide, and to the boundary of the Bowtie subdistrict, just to make review of a future permit as clean and clear as possible. Next slide. So again, before public hearing or as part of commissioner discussion, Mary Hart Burton and Evan Winkler from the zoning section are here to answer any questions or fill in any gaps. And other than that, no further presentation from me.
Thank you very much. Again, the posting for public hearing was placed. If you want to make comments for public hearing, by requirement, you please place your name in the chat box, in the chat, and then we will go forward with that. I'll entertain a motion for a public hearing.
So moved, Commissioner Chung.
Second, Commissioner Boaz.
Moved by Commissioner Young, seconded by Commissioner Boaz. Call for previous roll. Hearing any objections? Hearing no objections, the public hearing is now open. If you want to make any comments at this time, I must say, please put your name in the chat. I will ask the staff if they have any letters or see any names that I'm not aware of.
No letters or names.
Thank you very much. With that, this is the first call to close for first call for comments. Second call for public hearing comments. Third call for public hearing comments. Hearing none, public hearing will be, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded by Commissioner Garmendia.
Okay, moved by Commissioner, I missed that.
Sorry, Commissioner Chung moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Kong, seconded by Commissioner Garmedia. Call
Previous
for
roll.
here, previous roll. Any objections? Hearing no objections, previous roll, public hearing is closed at this point. Simply walk again. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, any comments or questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Boaz, any comments or questions?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Bradley, any comments or questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Anderson,
No questions.
Commissioner Garmedia,
No questions.
Commissioner Keung?
No questions.
Well, thank you very much. With that, we will ask the staff to review the recommendation.
Great, thank you. So we find the proposed zoning district map amendments for initiation by the Planning Commission to be in conformity with the city's strategic land use plan and recommend approval to the city's Board of Aldermen.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Commissioner Boaz.
Seconded, Commissioner Keung.
It's been moved by Commissioner Boaz, seconded by Commissioner Keung. Call for vote.
Previous roll.
Here, any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objections, it is passed with previous roll. Thank you very much. With that, Miriam, very good. Oh, you're still on too. But the first thing is we have gone through 3 public hearings. Thank you very much, commissioners. For those that are new, this is a little bit interesting for us on this day. The last item is a zoning, well, the next item is a zoning text amendment. And I think Miriam, the podium is still yours. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So like the chair mentioned, our final item is a zoning text amendment and actually a continuation of the proposed amendment defining short-term rentals that was the subject of Planning Commission discussion last month. So as you may remember, we opened and closed the public hearing at the last meeting. So tonight is a brief review presentation focused on refinements to the definitions before returning to commissioner discussion. So as a reminder at the high level, so this proposed amendment is focused kind of simply on establishing a number of definitions, just zoning definitions associated with short-term rentals as a land use and permits them in all districts, but subject to additional regulations. And as reviewed, those additional regulations would be codified outside of the zoning code and are currently being refined. A board bill has not yet been introduced. And I think to clarify some questions from last month, putting those other regulations in Title 25, which deals with buildings and construction, rather than in the zoning code or Title 26, the purpose of that is that it would allow for use of the building commissioner's powers in quickly revoking permits if conditions of those permits are violated. Whereas a revocation process for a zoning related permit, under state law has to take some longer time because of the notice requirement. So that is the choice of the approach here, is to allow for a very responsive permit revocation process in the case that short-term rental permit conditions are violated. Next slide, please. So getting into the definitions tonight, there are 9 identified in the resolution, but 2 of these, signs and dwelling units, are actually just restatements of existing definitions in other parts of the zoning code. So I'm not going to detail those. I'm going to describe the other 7 though. So what you see on these slides are the proposed definitions on the left, and then in blue, just a high level description of what's been changed since last month when you saw these proposed definitions. So, the zoning section and kind of a working group thinking about this issue, took commissioners' questions and comments and went back to make these refinements to the definitions. So I'll begin walking through the definitions. Actually, would you flip back? So short-term rental as a definition, and here you can see the full definitions, is really structured to distinguish it from other lodging uses. And the only thing that's been changed since the last time this was before the Planning Commission was that this definition removes the reference to owner-occupied or non-owner-occupied types of short-term rental, because those definitions have actually been kind of restated in an effort to clarify those. And I'll get to that in a second. The second definition, short-term rental unit, no longer includes accessory buildings. Instead, because of the requirement that short-term rentals be rented only in dwelling units, which are defined as having kitchen or cooking and sanitary facilities or a part thereof, there's really no need to include accessory buildings in the definition, because only accessory buildings that have cooking and sanitary facilities would be qualified to be rented under these definitions. So just kind of tightened up and simplified that definition. And then these next 2, short-term rental occupied and short-term rental non-occupied. These have changed, removing the reference to an idea of ownership. I think this is something that caused some confusion maybe in the last set of definitions. The focus here in the distinction between these two definitions is actually simply on whether the property is used as a principal residence by the person operating a short-term rental. And so that person whose principal residence the property is could either be the owner of the property or a tenant or lessee of the property authorized by the owner to operate the short-term rental. So some slight changes there to the names of these definitions in an effort to clarify the key distinction between these two types. And I want to spend a little bit more of a moment kind of clarifying the distinction between these two definitions, occupied and non-occupied, with some graphics that our team created. So next slide. Like I said, the key distinction here is between dwelling units, which are used as a principal residence, and I'm using blue for these, and you'll see kind of these graphics build on each other, and those that are not used as a principal residence, and those are in orange. Next slide. Short-term rentals could be operated out of both, but we are defining them here differently so that in those other regulations in Title 25, there's the potential to have now or in the future different requirements for these two types of short-term rental properties. Next slide. So, for example, say you're renting out your home, which is your principal residence, as a short-term rental unit, so the place where you live. You could be the owner of the property or a lessee with the owner's permission to operate a short-term rental, and this would be defined as an occupied short-term rental. Next slide. And even if it's just a bedroom or two, this still falls under the definition of occupied short-term rental. Next slide. But say you own a property down the street or anywhere in the city, but you don't live in it, so it is not your principal residence. If it is rented as a short-term rental, and again, not your principal residence, it would fall under that non-occupied short-term rental definition. So these are kind of some simple cases. And next slide, here are a couple more scenarios. So say you own a 4-unit building and live in one of those units, so you're living in that blue unit as your principal residence, but you own and are renting out the other 3 as short-term rentals. Those other 3 would fall under the non-occupied short-term rental definition. And in that scenario on the right, say you have an accessory dwelling unit on your property, and as long as it has cooking and bathroom facilities, it could be rented as a short-term rental. But since it's not your principal residence, and there's that key distinction, it falls under the non-occupied short-term rental definition. So here was just an effort to kind of clarify the key distinction between these two definitions. And again, in the zoning resolution here, it's really just focused on those definitions. But I know that the commission, was of course, very interested in making sure that these were self-evidently clear definitions. So that's where we've landed on those first 4. Next slide. I'm going to go through the other definitions before the discussion. I want to spend a little bit of time there, and we can return to this graphics if there are other questions. So here are the 3 other new definitions that are being introduced with this proposed amendment. So short-term rental owner, this is actually no change since last month. Short-term rental agent, all that's really been changed here is updating this definition to match the new occupied and non-occupied definitions rather than including the term owner, because we thought upon review that added unneeded confusion. And then the third and final new definition being proposed here, short-term rental permit, the only change here from what you saw last month is that it specifies short-term rental owner rather than owner in general. And so let's see, with that, next slide. So the other part of this amendment is that it does say that short-term rentals, and again, subject to regulation by a separate set of regulations in Title 25 would be permitted in every zoning district. And again, that's because of the real desire to have that swift process for addressing issues that may arise. Next slide. And then finally, here, just a little bit of context about, to the best of our knowledge, where are short-term rentals operating today in our city. We use AirDNA data, which is kind of the best, most complete data on short-term rental location we could find. So as you can see, in every zoning district, short-term rentals do seem to be in operation, most prevalent in areas in single-family and two-family dwelling and C and D, multiple family. And then next slide, looking at where they're operating today relative to the strategic land use plan, we see that they are somewhat more prevalent in areas near employment centers, entertainment amenities, and other tourism destinations, and really in every strategic land use plan category, excluding the category we use for parks, which makes sense. Next slide. And we do find that short-term rentals do and can fit within the character of a broad range of strategic land use plan designations and land uses, and in many cases, can be complementary to major employment centers, entertainment amenities, and so on. There's a potential for competition with other residential uses, but these zoning definitions and really this entire effort represent a step in the direction of regulation to sort of set and track standards and track how these uses really are operating in the city in a way that we can't do right now with available data. Just to say that perhaps in another way, that formally defining, permitting, and regulating short-term rentals through these definitions in the zoning code and subsequent regulations being developed will allow for ongoing evaluation of this emerging land use trend. And then also last month, Commissioner Boaz asked kind of how this approach and these definitions relate to what other cities in Missouri are doing. And I think sort of a key takeaway from that, our research into that is that reviewing what Kansas City is doing, there's a lot of overlap in the definitions, and specifically the use of this distinction between occupied and non-occupied short-term rental uses as the basis for what could be different requirements or different standards set in other parts of city ordinances. Next slide. Let's see. And like I mentioned, we opened and closed the public hearing at last month's meeting. And so I think we can move into commissioner discussion and questions. And I just want to acknowledge Evan Winkler and Mary Hart Burton here from the zoning section, also available to answer questions. We all worked as a team on this. And also Frank Oswald, the city's building commissioner, is on the line and able to answer questions about sort of the broader context of regulations being discussed and some of the considerations around mechanics there.
We need to do a technical stuff before we move into discussion. You made a presentation.
I'm sorry, who's speaking? We can't hear them. Who's that?
All right, so we need to ask the chair.
I'll repeat the comment.
Well, the planning commission to reopen this item.
Okay. Don identified a technical item here that the planning commission needs to have a vote to reopen this item for discussion.
I'm sorry, to do what? I still.
Make a motion
sorry,
to reopen this for discussion.
Oh, yeah, I will open it for discussion though. We will not have a public hearing though. What I would ask that you do is go back to slide number 2, I think it was, that talked about section 25 and section 26. Where our responsibility and not. Yeah, there we go, right there. That's what I'm saying. Zoning text amendment 26, subject to the planning commission review. Additional regulations, Title 25, are not subject to our conversation. I just simply want to say that so that we stay within our boundaries of questions and concerns. With that, I will go through commissioners and allow questions. I will first open Alderman Cone, who I know had some. I'm not sure if he's still not present at this time.
Quickly,
With-
Chair,
Do,
so
we-
what Don.
could I second the
clarified is
motion?
Hold on, Commissioner Boaz. I can't hear the planning staff. We hear Don
Can you hear
yelling, but
Chair, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm restating what Don was saying. So he just identified that as a point of order. We need to, or the commission needs to actually have a motion to reopen this item for discussion, to take it up again.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I
Yep.
got you. All right. So
Yep.
we do need to reopen this because we did continue it from the last meeting. So I will entertain a motion to reopen it for discussion.
So moved, Commissioner Bradley.
Second, Commissioner Garmendia.
Been moved by Commissioner Bagley, seconded by Commissioner Garmedia. Call for vote.
Previous
Previous
roll.
roll.
Here, previous roll. Any objections? Hearing no objections, with that, we can now open this issue up for conversation. Now I can go through the list of commissioners, correct?
yes,
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Clark, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, please. Any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Boaz.
No questions. I thought it was very clear and well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bradley.
No questions. I think a lot of great work was put into this. Kudos to the staff.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson.
No questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Garmedia.
Great job, staff. Much more clear now. I think even though Cone isn't here, he wouldn't bring up any more questions, maybe. But yes, thank you.
Good luck. Commissioner Kyung.
Sorry, just laughing at that. No, great work. Thank you. I thought the graphics, they grew on me a lot as you guys kept using them. So I appreciated them. So thank you.
As chair, I agree with the last two that it was good work. That is part of the lively discussion we had last time, and it gets us results and answers, and even maybe, as somebody said, Alderman Cone might be compensated for his intuitive questions. We'll say that, and lively debate. With that, I will ask that the action be the staff's recommendation be repeated or reviewed. I'm tired.
Yes, so our recommendation is that the planning commission would find this zoning text amendment to be in conformity with the strategic land use plan, and that the commission recommend approval to the Board of Aldermen.
Thank
So
you.
moved, Commissioner Boaz.
Seconded, Commissioner Cowan.
Moved by Commissioner Boaz, seconded by Commissioner Kyung.
Previous roll.
Here called for previous roll. Hear any objections? Hearing no objections, this is passed with previous roll. Whew. Thank you, staff, for your good work on everything you did. Thank you for the commission. At this point, 3 public hearings. There's executive report. Don, at this point, will take the podium and give us his report or any statements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I only have one statement to make. As we made mention, Evan from Mary's staff is here. Mary's on the phone. Frank Oswald, who's been shepherding much of the legislation, both that will come as a result of this, both this one and another board bill, is on the call. And all I want to do today is thank them for that great work. Really was highly professional and substantive. So thanks. That's all for tonight.
All right. And we will echo, the commission will echo that thanks to them. But again, I do not want this evening to end without thanks to the staff that puts in the work, which does not necessarily get recognized as much as it should be. But thank you for doing the work at a level of excellence that I'm starting to appreciate even more and more. With that, I do want to recognize once again our newest member, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. To the commission, I will give her a chance to speak and make any comments she would as her first meeting. Welcome.
Thank you. I don't have any comments. I'm just happy for this opportunity to be able to serve.
Very good. With that, congratulations to all those that were sworn in the last 2 weeks now, I guess it has been. Time flies when you're having fun. With that, before we leave, I would simply want to recognize this weekend as Mother's Day. I wish everybody that carries that title or has or represents or remembers a mother have a very pleasant weekend, as hopefully you can find joy in this in some way or another. I'll entertain a motion to close the Planning Commission.
So moved.
Moved. Seconded.
Commissioner Kellen, thank you for such an
Oh,
energetic.
no, sorry. That was Commissioner Garmendia. I was about to say something, but all right. Christina
Well,
beat me to it.
I thank you all for your comments and notice. We got through 3 public hearings in less than an hour. Thanks for the work, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.